The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. Today, secrets are being revealed. And they're secrets that should have America and all her people enraged. Several days ago, a 29-year-old American by the name of Edward Snowden made headlines by exposing secret programs that the government was using in order to capture data and essentially spy on the world. Now, it's no secret that the U.S. government spies on other nations, and other nations spy as well. These programs are usually shrugged off because, we tend to think that our governments are concerned about finding the bad guys or the terrorists. But the programs that Mr. Snowden exposed showed that the government was involved with invasion of privacy of almost every American in the United States. Records detailing unimaginable amounts of data that are stored on each and every person, innocent or guilty. The first major headline that came out was the fact that the government had court orders in place to the top telecommunication services in the country. We are talking Verizon, AT&T, Sprint. Every single day, these companies are forced to turn over all their records for every phone call that is made. And if you know anything about phones, you know that they're not just looking at the phone number itself. They're looking at both parties that are being talked to. You can get locations because every phone has GPS units hooked into it just about. I mean, it is an insane amount of detail that you can get just from looking at these records. The second major headline was that the NSA had a program in place called PRISM, which apparently also has access to every major tech company or program that you probably use. In fact, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, the NSA is watching. They've got contacts with Skype, Google, YouTube, Microsoft, Yahoo, Facebook, AOL, Apple, the maker of pretty much every device or software that almost all of us use who are online and in the internet. And around the globe, the world is demanding answers. Answers from the U.S. on why they are collecting data on innocent people, both in the States and abroad. But in America, you turn on the news, the media isn't demanding answers for the NSA illegal spying on Americans, which, by the way, is a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, which guards against unreasonable searches and seizures. The government and talking heads on TV are only wanting one thing. When they're not talking about trying to tear him down as a person by mentioning, oh, he was a 29-year-old dropout of high school who was dating some pole dancer, who just, I guess, somehow ends up getting a job where they trust him with the top secret classified material, which is now embarrassing the entire government. They only want one thing. They want this guy's head on a platter. They call him a traitor for telling the truth. One of my favorite quotes by Ron Paul is, "Truth is treason in the empire of lies." And I always thought that the Whistleblower Act was to protect people like this, who came forward and exposed illegal government activities. Because, what was he supposed to do? Go to his boss and say, hey, boss, I think this might be a problem with the Constitution. What are you thinking? I'm sure they would have totally listened to him. Everything would have been taken care of, and we could have done this all behind closed doors, right? I don't get why more people aren't demanding that we put the NSA on trial. If you have no privacy, you've lost that right. And if you lose your rights, you are a slave. But people say, Dragon, I've got nothing to hide. Why should I care if the government is watching or listening to me? I want them to find the bad guys. Look, I almost went back to school to become a history teacher. In fact, I'm still contemplating it at times, but I'm not really sure I can deal with the political atmosphere of that. But you don't have to know history to know a few things. History is filled with stories of kings and rulers and governments who would have loved to have this sort of technology and invasion of privacy. And history is filled with citizens who weren't doing nothing wrong either, but it didn't stop them from being persecuted or slaughtered. What were the Christians doing wrong for the Romans to persecute them? They were just being Christians. What were the Jews doing wrong to Hitler? They were being Jews. What were the blacks doing wrong in the 1800s besides being black? The Indians and so on. You can go on and on and on. All it takes is a very small group of really bad people with really bad ideas, with really powerful technology to have a huge impact on anything and everything. They want to blackmail you. They want to pull something up and hold you against that. No problem. In fact, there's another NSA whistleblower who actually left the Bush administration whenever he said, I saw totally a bunch of things that were totally illegal that I couldn't stay there and knowingly be a part of. He's come out now and given more information saying that he had in his hands papers of orders to wiretap Obama back whenever he was a senator. He had papers on a judge who now sits on the Supreme Court. I mean, if you have this kind of access to all these people, you don't think there's people not using this for blackmail, who's got dirty info on anybody? You've got access to their phone calls, their emails, their text messages, their locations, their voice. You have access to everything, and you don't think there's people who won't abuse this system? And most of all, if you want to talk about, I'm not doing anything wrong, don't even look at yourself. What about journalists who are trying to get stories, who are trying to get people to come forward and talk about things that they probably shouldn't be talking about because it's dangerous, but it's stuff that needs to be told. It's information that needs to get out there. And if you have a system in place where people can't freely go and talk to the press, I mean, I don't really like the mainstream media, but I sure as hell would not, vote to get rid of them. I mean, we need that. We need people asking questions. We need people to be able to come forward. And they are already saying that these stories about the AP being monitored, being wiretapped, all this is already having an impact on several journalists and news organizations. The people who they usually get information from are not coming forward as much because they know this is in place, that they can be monitored. I mean, I know that there are people who like to believe that the government is some entity that is near perfect and always works for the good of the people, but the government is the people, human beings with desire for power and wealth, and they're capable of good and evil. That's why there's got to be checks and balances. You've got to be able to have oversight of things. And so the question is, who is watching the watchers? That speech in the beginning was from John F. Kennedy back in the 60s. And later in that speech, he talks about the importance of transparency, the freedom of the press, and its importance to our survival as a nation. Today, we have a bit more transparency. It's not because of our president or this administration, but because of Edward Snowden. People ask, is he a traitor or a hero? And that's probably a topic I could do a video on in and of itself. But I say that question is a hell of a lot less important than the question of, what are we going to do about the loss of one of our most cherished freedoms and rights? Benjamin Franklin said, those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Post your comments below in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Does the government have a right to do this? Who's the traitor? The NSA, Edward Snowden, both? Post below. I'm interested in hearing your comments. If you want to hear more about the subject, there's so many different areas and topics you can go into. And, if you enjoyed this, I would definitely love to get that feedback from you. If you want to hear more, then I'll definitely start working on another piece. That does it for me, The Red Dragon. If you want the latest news and headlines, be sure you tune in to VGN, videogamesandnews.com. Thanks for watching, and take care.